Steve Rogers, better known as Captain America, is quite possibly the active symbol of American ideals and the symbol of hope, freedom, and basically everything right in the Marvel Universe. He is quite possibly just the equivalent in character status to Superman from the DC Universe. And he is quite easily one of my favorite characters. But today we're putting him in a place that is the complete opposite of all of that, into Gotham City. And we're asking a very huge question. Could he potentially end all crime in Gotham City? Gotham is its own beast. It's brutal, corrupt, and obsessed with chaos. So would Cap's ideals, tactics, and leadership be enough to turn the city from the hopeless war zone that is basically just cursed into a place where crime legitimately dies out? With all that said and done, let's break this down. Firstly, this isn't just a strength versus strength hypothetical. It clashes philosophy specifically. Captain America stands for duty, law, civic responsibility, while Gotham is just rotten to the institutional level. Corrupt cops, twisted politicians, rogues who are chaotic, and iconically precise because they exploit the city's rot to the best possibility. So it's basically more of a question of, can pure morality and pure moral authority plus tactical brilliance actively fix a broken city? Or does Gotham need something darker, something bigger, in whatever way that you want to think about it? Now, just in case you've been living under a rock and you don't know who Captain America is, I'll just go through a brief rundown on the background of his character. Steve Rogers is a World War II super soldier who became the living symbol of heroism. When anybody in the Marvel Universe thinks of a hero, a true hero, it is Captain America. He has peak human physical abilities and combat ability. He's an expert tactician, obviously not levels of like Batman and people like that, but when it comes to actually thinking of plans and doing things like that, he's very much on par with as many people as you could possibly think of. And a master of, small unit leadership and doing things like that, because we've seen his work on the military battlefield. We know he's a very good leader in just any specific terms in the sense, because he has led teams like the Avengers. So he is basically kind of like Batman in that front. He is a more normal, mortal person leading groups and teams of these highly superpowered people. Obviously, there's Iron Man, but usually, let's just honestly put it to Cap if we're talking about doing the moral leadership abilities. But more importantly, he is a moral anchor. He builds teams, he inspires institutions, and he can make people follow him with just literally genuinely words because they genuinely believe in what he stands for. His shield is his tool, but his influence and the way that he acts is his true power. For this scenario, picture this. Gotham is intact, but leaderless. Batman is absent. The city is spiraling. Crime rates are through the roof. This is just, typical Gotham days. Just no Batman, because adding Batman into the fold kind of deviates the story and deviates the idea and premise in ways that I don't want to be dealing with. And it kind of makes it a lot easier to say, oh, obviously he can just team up with Batman and he can just fix crime that way. I need his to be a singular situation where he has full reins in whatever he wants to do. So, obviously, as I said, crime rates are through the roof. Arkham incidents are increasing. Corruption sits in City Hall, normal things like that. And Steve Rogers is deployed or volunteers to stabilize Gotham for an extended mission. We'll just basically put him into the DC universe and say that he's been here for a while and he has decent knowledge of what's going on. He has support of a federal task force, limited assets from, either the Justice League or S.H.I.E.L.D. or some similar authority. Let's just say Argus to be more specific and be in the DC standpoint. And most importantly, he has time because no instant victory he's ever going to have. He can't just come into the city and just be like, okay, boom, take this down. It is going to be a long campaign of reform, enforcement, and cultural change. So obviously I could have just been like, he just gets transported into the universe. He figures out and he wants to solve all this. No, we're going to kind of have that be the situation and scenario to set everything up. And I think that he would basically get this started in multiple phases of his plan. Phase one specifically being stabilize and secure. The first thing that Cap would do is stabilize the hotspots. He is a very good strategist on almost any kind of terms, so he would secure the docks, clear out the gang distribution networks, and protect the key civilian infrastructures. He's not going to go solo vigilante and anything else like that. He'll build trust with the law enforcement that isn't corrupt. So people like Gordon and people that Gordon actively, completely can trust. Anybody that is not corrupt. He pulls in honest GCPD units and uses precise strikes to break down criminal command structures. Think targeted takedowns instead of just sweeping militarized raids. He'd also starve the economy of crime, dismantle supply chains, drugs, weapons, anything else like that, freeze corrupt assets, and also expose politicians and ward bosses enabling the syndicates. Cap's leadership basically means that he can be the public face for legitimate reform while directing covert units to take down the backbone of the organized crimes in whatever way that he wants to. Phase two would be rebuilding the institutions. Here's where Cap's real advantage would show up. He doesn't just punch criminals, he rebuilds institutions. He would push for police reform, transparent oversight, and community engagement. Steve would work with federal prosecutors to prosecute corrupt officials and would set up independent review boards to stop police rot from the beginning. He'd prioritize training programs and emphasize basically community policing over the brute force, just to make sure that there's not as much corruption in the later future. Obviously, as I'm going to keep saying, Gotham is basically just cursed, so how he would do this forever, that's more give or take and iffy on that situation, but we'll just continue on. Because continuing on with what I was just saying, Gotham's culture is fear and cynicism basically at the entire fundamental core. It is the engine that feeds all of his rogues. So Cap's campaign would need to try being long-term for however long that it can be. Mentorship programs, vocational incentives or whatever, and public rebuilding projects that give civilians something to defend. He is a symbol who the people can get behind and believe in something again, through the light and the dark. Because while Batman is somebody that has been in Gotham for a long while, he is the basically warden of the night. Obviously, we have somebody like Duke Thomas that is the signal that patrols during the day, but the Batman and any of the Bat family are usually patrolling around the nighttime, which makes it a lot more hard for civilians to be able to actively root for somebody like that. Obviously, if you live in Gotham, you're probably rooting for Batman, but this is a very different kind of person. So that would be his phase three, winning over the hearts and minds of whoever he can. Because Captain America's greatest asset isn't, one, you already know what I just basically said, but it isn't his shield. It is his credibility. He can de-escalate riots, negotiate surrenders, and go on the record to shame corrupt politicians because he isn't afraid of the outcome. He knows that he can protect himself perfectly in almost any normal circumstance, and he has fought in extremely powerful beings, so he's not going to completely be worried about a lot of things. He'd work to restore faith of institutions by actually being consistent. No vindictiveness, no showboating, no nothing like that. Over months and years, this could easily show public shift in any kind of way in the sediment away from like the fear that has been just basically poured and engaged into the entirety of the community. So it would basically move them away from that fear and build them to community resilience. That shift would have to be crucial because many of Gotham's criminals feed on that public despair. We know this. If the public starts cooperating with the police, tips flow in, and crimes become harder to hide, Cap's presence could actively cause a snowball effect where fewer banks are paid off, fewer jurors are bribed, fewer crooks are actively in judges or the police department or any other place like that, because now there's actively people making sure that this is getting called out before it can get out of hand. And speaking of things getting out of hand, the main reason why that would happen would have to be due to the rogues gallery that Batman has. And how he would handle the rogues would be a lot more interesting. Because this is the meat of that question. Gotham's rogues are not simple. They're theoretical, often psychologically unique, and some, like the Joker, thrive on chaos itself. So, going from like the street crime and gangs like that, like the Falcone and Maroni types, these are just classic Cap targets. Organized crimes can be dismantled with precise law enforcement, asset seizures, or witness protection programs, or whatever. Cap will outmaneuver them tactically and legally, resulting in a realistic, actual way to completely get them gone in whatever way that he needs them to get gone. Now, the mid-tier villains like Penguin, Riddler, maybe Scarecrow, but he could honestly count as more of a high-tier threat, would be a little more irritating to deal with, because Penguin's corruption and social influence make him a legal and political problem. Taking down his businesses like the Iceberg Lounge or whatever, and a lot of his businesses that he has, like, would be a very crucial thing. Flipping his associates would also need to be happening, all of that. The Riddler's intellect and Scarecrow's psychological warfare would require specialists, Raven, or like psych teams or whatever, specifically just grabbing other people that would be better suited for somebody like that, because Scarecrow would be a big challenge no matter what. Yes, Cap could get a gas mask. That's not going to be a problem, so we could probably deal with things like that. But no matter what, he would need to deal with and find people that might be more specialized to deal with somebody like Scarecrow, just due to the fact that he's going to be somewhat more annoying if that fear toxin manages to get into Cap in any specific way. But Cap will find the way to get that dealt with and done. He doesn't underestimate brains for brawn, so he will figure out the best strategy and get that dealt with whatever way he can. And those higher tier threats like Bane, Poison Ivy, Freeze, or Clayface, these are the bigger issues. Cap could outfight and outplan Bane in almost any specific situation, and he's most definitely going to be possibly stronger, just due to the fact that in most versions of Captain America, whether it's comics, MCU, animated shows, or whatever, we see him going head to head against very strong beings. Specifically, if we're just going MCU route, we see him actually fighting Thanos and being able to hold Thanos' arm back for at least a second or two. And we know how strong that he is, Thanos, on that end, and we can at least assume how strong Cap is. Yes, he has like peak human physical abilities, but that peak kind of goes a little overboard if we're being honestly talking about it. So him dealing with Bane would be fairly interesting, but I honestly see him more avoiding a head-to-head if possible, just due to the Venom being absolutely an overpowered cheat code for Bane's assets. And when it comes to somebody like Poison Ivy and her ecological attacks, would honestly require a lot more containment and biohazard teams and specific things like that, just due to the fact that Ivy is a more interesting dilemma to try dealing with. And Ivy, as I'm said in a couple other videos, I usually don't consider her as a complete just villain. I usually just more consider her as like eco-terrorist. So she's not trying to completely just kill for no reason. She has her reasons, but those reasons aren't really good in the way that she's doing them. But then we have Clayface and Freeze, which are edgier cases in specific terms like that, because they are less about crime economics and more about single event threads that could be taken care of in whatever way. Cap's long-term plan would be to neutralize them through combined force tech or allies. Clayface would be the more irritating just due to Clayface's ability sets, but Cap could get the materials and everything else needed to take down Clayface and get him contained in whatever way. And then Freeze, he honestly wouldn't even need to be that hard to be taken out because we know why Freeze does this. He does this all for his wife. So I don't find it completely hard to believe that Cap would find some actual sympathy for Freeze and actually find a way to try helping him with trying to free his and like get his wife to be better in any specific way, just due to the fact that he has access to Argus and things like that. So he would possibly help Freeze and just take that villain off the board right there. But then there is still going to be one major villain left to be talking about, which would be the Joker. And let's be painfully honest here. The Joker is not a crime boss. He is a force of nature. He exists to break people like Cap. Steve's integrity is both his strength and his vulnerability. And Joker would try to weaponize that. Cap can capture the Joker temporarily, but in the end, the Joker is more of an idea in terms of everything else like that, because he usually has a plan or way out. But it's more so, can he end the Joker as an idea? Probably not. The Joker thrives on attention and paradox, and Cap can reduce the Joker's impact with strong institution by refusing to play into his chaos. But Gotham's Joker is, usually immune to being legalized in any way. And the main reason that I say that is due to the fact that people are always talking about and having debates about, oh, Captain America's kill code and he doesn't kill or whatever. And I'm always just saying one specific thing. For those specific sets of Gotham villains that cannot be redeemed, specifically in cases like the Joker, Cap fought in World War II as a soldier. He will definitely have to pull the trigger if he needs to at any point in time. So Joker specifically being one of those cases that I could easily find the ramifications and full-on reasonings to even consider doing it. I don't see a possibility where Cap will not eventually be forced to actively kill the Joker. Now, obviously, the main reason I didn't bring this up previously is due to the fact that Cap will actively find another way to deal with somebody before he goes to the final way of trying to deal with them, before he goes to that final end-all be-all. He will find any alternate means of anything else like that. And for a good portion of Batman's other villains, they are mostly, as we all know, end up in Arkham Asylum. They usually all have these extreme mental cases that could easily, not easily, but could be dealt with in other ways. The Joker, yes, could easily be sent to Arkham Asylum and just plead for insanity, but he's so insane that he's just basically sane. So that kind of just cancels out that entire sentiment right there. And along with the fact that he is quite literally, just as I said, insane. He is so insane that he is sane, but he is so insane that there is no going back to any sense of normality and any sense of good. He is just chaos. So Cap will have to do something to permanently end the Joker. So obviously, that might cause some problems, but if we're being honest, I don't see anybody really having a problem with him killing the Joker just due to the fact that Joker has done so many heinous stuff in general. So that would help with any political and legal problems that he might have, because obviously he may have ethics, but he's also going to be constrained by law and democracy too, depending on if we're just having Cap actively be wanting to work with the government, because yes, he might be Captain America, but that doesn't mean he stands for and always will root on the same side as America. But luckily, this isn't a video would he agree with the DC and the American justice system in general. That could be its own discussion, and we could easily have that conversation in another one. But he will, for this scenario, still be bound by, law and democracy. There is a line that he has to respect: civil liberties, due process, and the public's will. And Joker can just screw through all of that because nobody really wants him around in the first place. So he can inspire reforms and coordinate federal action. He can't rule Gotham. Obviously, he wouldn't want to. And any heavy-handed moves, mass arrests without due process, military tribunals would erode his morality and authority in any kind of things, but he doesn't really want to do that because he's not that kind of person. His success completely depends on preserving rights while remaining brutally and relentlessly effective. But getting closer to the end of this active discussion, when we get into this sense of scale and sustainability, can one man end crime? Obviously, no, not alone. But Steve Rogers isn't one man. He he isn't one man in the useful sense. He is a leader who builds movements and is somebody that people will generally just easily flock towards. So his goal would be to make himself unnecessary in kind of that sense. Train leaders, empower communities, and professionalize police so that after his mission ends, Gotham will still be able to function correctly. That is what he is best at. Making people the best versions of themselves. That's why I compared him to Superman at the beginning of this video. That's the only way to sustainably be able to deal with Gotham and sustainably way to kind of deal with the way of crime dying out. Because when systems and people choose to not tolerate it, that is the easiest way to be able to get rid of it entirely. So, in conclusion, and just kind of getting this all wrapped up with, because this is a longer video than I normally would make, could Captain America end all crime in Gotham? Short answer, no. Captain America can't single-handedly end crime in Gotham one by one just by himself. Hence why I did this specific way. Because that long answer is yes. He could start this transformation that drastically reduces organized crime and revives Gotham's infrastructures and everything else like that. He'd neutralize gangs, topple corrupt governments and corrupt officials and protect civilians. He could make Gotham safer, more lawful, more resilient, but he can't fix the Joker's idea or magically erase the madness that is just the curse of Gotham in general. Gotham would still be Gotham, dark and weird at the edges and everything else like that. But with the functioning institutions that civilization kind of would be able to get in with Cap there, it would slowly learn to reset and resist that fear. So, yeah. If you guys did enjoy this video, make sure, leave a like, subscribe to the channel, hit that notification bell, because Cap is one of those characters that I really do truly enjoy talking about. If you have any other videos that you guys might want me to do about him, let me know down in the comment section below. But what do you think? Would you want Captain America in Gotham or whatever? Or do you think it's too much of a cultural mix match? Drop your thoughts in the comments down below as always, and any other video ideas that you might want me to do. But I will see you guys in the next video. Peace.